The reason why I went to Langebaan in Cape Town, and the reason I came back was because of Jade. I was supposed to be on the run, but the love, the love brought me back.
When he proposed, he's like, I'm telling you, I'm not asking you.
I used to be beat up because of drugs, and I thought, now this is an opportunity, and I'm sure many people outside also said, this is your opportunity, take it, run. I was trying to speak to my friend and say, no, take the rap for this, because I'm already wanted for this case of house robbery.
King David Studio podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first Prison Love Stories. This is a beautiful show where we are here to talk about anything and everything prison love stories, the good and the bad. I'm sure niyafuna ukuzwa umgosi vele, ne? You know what happens, you know, how do people meet and how do people fall in love and stay in love in prison, even after prison. Today, I have a very beautiful couple and they're here to share with us, you know, their journey, their beautiful love story. Ladies and gentlemen, please make warm welcome to a beautiful couple here. This is a friend of mine, actually, Randolph. He's going to introduce himself and his beautiful wife. Over to you, Randolph.
First of all, thanks, Cherry, for having us. And to the viewers, greetings to you. As Cherry said, my name is Randolph Bayers, and we are on Prison Love Stories. I'm with my beautiful wife, Jade Bayers.
Wow, thank you so much, guys. It's been a long time. Actually, it's the first time we see each other since prison, right?
Yeah, first time outside.
First time outside. Hey, how long have you been out now?
It's 10 years.
It's 10 years now. So you've been released, this is 2024. You've been released 2014.
July.
Wow. That's a long time. Yes. So meaning now you've been together outside after prison for 10 years.
Correct.
Guys, that's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful story. But firstly, I'm interested, Jade, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Rosettenville, Johannesburg South. Yeah, so that's actually where I met Randolph as well. We happen to be neighbors. Yeah, we met when I was... Okay, we met way before, but we actually started dating when I was 16.
So at what age did you guys started knowing each other?
Probably, I would say about, maybe I was 14 or so, but like just, you know, from a distance, just greeted and so forth. And then, yeah, that was that. So when he went to prison, I was 17.
So wait, at age 16, you guys start dating?
Yes.
And what's happening then? Are you guys at school? What's happened? What is the situation?
Okay, so basically, school, no, I was working at the time. And I actually called Randy's brother, his younger brother, who has since passed away, Jason. And he told me, no, that Randy had gone to Cape Town. So I said, no, give me his number. I want to talk to him.
Okay.
And we started chatting and so forth. And so I knew at the time he was actually on the run. And I was like, okay, well, you know, it is what it is. And then he came back to Johannesburg, where our relationship officially started. That was on the 27th of May, 2005.
Wow.
And it wasn't being so young. Obviously, my mother was not having any of it with regards to the relationship. Knowing Randy's reputation and so forth.
What was his reputation?
So he was the bad guy. He was the bad guy of Rosettenville. And so many people knew it. And I suppose any mother wouldn't want their child with somebody with that kind of reputation.
Of course, yes.
But I was just like, no, I'm not having any of that. And this is my boyfriend and it is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was that. It was difficult because we couldn't go to certain places because what if the police are there, roadblocks, stuff like that. It was always about the block is hot and so forth. But at that time, I didn't really think much. It was just, I'm just young, having fun. And yeah, it is what it is. I'm with the bad guy, so it's okay.
And Randy, you know, Randy is such a sweet guy. I've known him to be a very sweet guy, a gentleman of note. Randy, tell me, what happened? How did you grow up and how did you end up, you know, on the wrong side of the law?
Originally, I'm from Pietermaritzburg, KZN.
Okay.
And we moved our family.
Is that where you were born?
Yes,
Okay.
Pietermaritzburg. Then the family relocated to Johannesburg in about 99.
Okay.
And that's when we moved straight to Rosettenville.
All right.
Yeah, and you know, coming out of a church background, I grew up in the church, but somehow when we got to Joburg, you meet new friends. And
So you're saying that where you come from at home, they are Christians, born again, and so forth.
yes,
Oh,
my
okay.
family was born again Christians. I was in the youth. And I
Okay.
think I came up, I was about 16 years old when I came to Joburg. And then you know how it is, the fast life, Johannesburg compared to Pietermaritzburg, where I'm coming from. Start meeting friends, and yeah, you start joining into what they're doing. But at first, I went into drugs, but I was drinking. And how I ended up moving with guys that were using substances, because I saw these guys, we used to always go to a game shop in Rosettenville.
Okay.
And this group of guys, I saw they were always having money,
Mhm.
not knowing what they were doing.
To get that money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then because we were drinking a lot with the friends I was with, not the ones that were always having money, and we're always getting into fights. So I told myself I need to get myself an unlicensed gun for protection. So I went to Maritzburg.
So you're saying that you were fighting with other guys outside or your group, or you were fighting amongst yourselves?
Guys outside the group. You
Oh,
know, when you
okay.
go to parties and you
Yes.
get involved in fights and so forth.
Yes.
So the thought came, hey, I need to get a gun,
Okay.
unlicensed gun. And I eventually went to Pietermaritzburg to get one. And when I came back, then these guys, this is how I met these guys that were in the game shop that were into crime and drugs, which I didn't know at the time. And they found out I have an unlicensed gun, and they started saying, hey, come with us. And when I went out with them, I see...
Wait. You are age 16.
No,
This
this is about 19.
So now you're 19.
Yeah.
Now you have an
19.
unlicensed firearm.
Yeah.
How did you get that gun?
I went to Pietermaritzburg and I spoke to someone.
Okay.
Yeah, and this person told me they can organize one. So I never forget, I went for it. I traveled in a taxi coming up to
So
Joburg.
you went to Pietermaritzburg and you bought a gun, or they just gave it to you because you're the guy?
I bought it.
Okay.
I bought the gun.
For how much?
I think it was about 900 Rand.
Okay.
It was a 9mm shot, I won't forget.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, we came out to Johannesburg with it. And I think actually this is the thing that actually triggered me and led me into the lifestyle of crime and criminal activities. Meeting that group of friends in the game shop, I'm seeing them going to clubs, filling the table with alcohol. And you know, if you're drinking, guys, you're looking for that, because now all eyes are focused on you, and you think it's about you, and everyone's looking at you. And I think growing up, being in a teenager towards adulthood in the world, you're looking for those things. People want that
Yes.
attention
Definitely.
on you.
Yes.
You see, and you want to actually have a reputation. And that's how I ended up going with these guys. I'll never forget the first time I saw them commit crime. They shot someone like in front of me. I was standing, you know, you're not used to this.
Shot this guy dead.
I'm
Dead.
not sure if the person died, but
Okay.
he shot the guy, and I just ran as far away as possible. But, you know, as time goes on, you end up finding yourself in the front line. You're no more now standing away. The first incidents, you stand away. Then as time goes on, it becomes like a norm. The next minute, you're the man with the gun in the front line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they used to say 10 steps away from the crime scene, no cut. There's no cut for you. In our language, we used to say 10 steps away from the crime scene, there's no cut. So you're not getting it. So now you know about his reputation at that time. But still you don't care.
Yeah, I didn't, because okay, so growing up, I grew up with my dad was alcoholic. I lost him when I was 13. So I didn't really have that, like, you know, father figure kind of thing. And when I met Randolph, it was like, wow, he was so caring. Besides the bad guy part of things, he was such a caring guy. He was so different. And I found a love in him that I didn't, know. And I think I looked past everything else because there was something about him, when you look deeper. And yeah, so we ended up moving in together, and
At what age? At what age did you guys
Well,
decide to move in together?
being the rebellious me those years, I was 17 when my mother told me that it's either you're gonna carry on with this relationship or you're getting out my house.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, bye.
And then when I was home for
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm going. I was like, I'm going. And,
Wow.
even looking back, the hand of God was in every detail. It's just that I didn't know.
I
I
get
grew
you.
up in a home where I heard of God, but I didn't know who God was. My mom really tried her best for us and stuff like that. And yeah, so we moved in together, and I think that for me was
Where did you move in together? Same area,
yes.
Rosatendo?
We actually, our first place, we moved in with friends, still friends with them today, good friends of ours. We moved in with them in Turfentine, and yeah, that's that.
So you guys are moving in together with your friends, and how are you maintaining your lifestyle? How are you taking care of her? What's happening there?
At that point, she was the one that was working,
Okay.
and that's when I started using substances. Even worse, my addiction started growing, and when your addiction grows, you look for means
It's true.
to support that habit. And sometimes I will actually like kind of blackmail. She didn't want me to do crime actually,
Okay.
so I would kind of use that as a blackmailing system and say, hey, if I don't smoke, I'm going to make a plan. And she didn't want me on the streets robbing people, breaking into houses. So she would try and make a plan from work and borrow money. We went through so many things. Substance abuse it's a destroyer of
It is,
lives,
definitely.
families, communities, homes. I remember my elder brother. He once bought me a PlayStation. That time it was PlayStation 2, brand new in the box. While I was using, he gave it to me. I never even opened that box. I was straight at the merchant, so I never even played that game. And that's how
Wow.
substance is. And I started using that as a tool. Hey, if I don't have smoke, I'm gonna make a plan myself.
What was your choice of drug?
What actually messed me, and I want to say this, is that many times we hang around with people and we say we will not do what they are doing. That's what I said. I met these guys, they were smoking rocks. I tried ecstasy, I tried cocaine sniffing. All that was just a phase, and then I got tired of it. We done it every day, then I got tired of it. And then it came to this one specific day when these guys would hit a move, and these guys are, the friends will always try influence you and say, try this. And hey, that day came that I said I will never do it, but that day came where I tried it for the first time, and that's what messed me up. That's what took me to another level when I started even neglecting myself, hygiene.
Yes.
You wake up in the morning, you're not worried about bathing or washing your face, brushing your teeth. You just want that heat.
And you actually think you are okay. Yeah, you're
True.
looking good.
Exactly. You don't think there's anything wrong with you. But I thank God that He eventually opened my eyes in the prison, Johannesburg prison. That's where my eyes were open. And that's when you see all the mess that you've made while you are outside.
Talking about that, what then leads you to getting incarcerated? What leads to your arrest?
The same friends, we ended up committing a crime not far from where I was, staying in Regent's Park. But what happened is I was on the run for this case, as Jade mentioned. So the reason why I went to Langebaan in Cape Town, and the reason I came back was because of Jade. I was supposed to be on the run, but the love, the love brought me back.
Yeah.
And then I was eventually arrested for this. Me and a friend, we
So wait, you were on a run for what case?
it was actually a house arrest, house robbery.
House robbery.
Yeah.
So you ran away. Then she texts you, hey, she's telling you, hey, my guy, I love you, I want you, and where are you?
Exactly.
And you're thinking, I can't let her be alone.
And I think that's the power of love. Eh?
Yes.
You forget that you're on the run
Yeah, that's
for
true.
cops and so forth. You're not worried. You just came back. And yeah, as time went on, a friend of mine also, we ended up breaking to another house while I'm back. And then that day when the cops came, no one wanted us because we had the stolen stuff in the flat
Okay.
with the friends, and nobody wanted to say whose
Is it the
stuff
same
is.
flat where you now?
No, it's not the same flat.
So you're staying in a different place now?
Yes, we were staying in a different
But
place.
this
Same area,
time it
though.
was a
Okay.
friend's flat,
Okay.
so we just slept there for the night
Okay.
because the stolen stuff was there.
Yeah.
And I was trying to speak to my friend and say, no, take the rap for this because I'm already wanted for this case of house robbery, and which the friend didn't. Then they said, no, let's go get the Moffat touch. And when they came with the Moffat touch, this case came up. And then it was too late. Then my friend wanted to take the rap, but it was too late. So they actually arrested all 4 of us in the flat.
Her included.
Yes.
You. So it was how many guys, how many girls?
It was 3 guys and 2 girls that were arrested.
So it was the 5 of you.
Yeah.
Was it the first time getting arrested?
Yes, it was. I was terrified.
How did you? What's going through your mind at that time? And how old are you at that
I
time?
was 17.
You are 17 years old.
17.
Getting arrested.
Yeah. And when they took us out the flat, because I was handcuffed with my friend, and all the neighbors came out and they were clapping, saying, take the criminals. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And then, so we spent the night in Boyson cells. And where I was working, I had a lot of police friends at the time.
Okay.
And one of the cops came and he was like trying to help. And then the other guy said, yeah, your friend is here now. You're not taking her out. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. But nevertheless, I was released because I was a minor. So my mother came to
Okay.
fetch me.
Were you charged, though?
Yeah, I was. I
Wow.
was charged.
And how did you finally get out? How were you not sentenced? Why were you not sentenced?
I was not sentenced because my boss gave a letter to say that I was at work that day, the time of the crime. So
the
I
time
was
of the
attending
crime.
about 3 cases, 3 times in court.
Also,
And
you
then,
appeared 3 times
Yeah,
for the
about
same
3.
case. Oh, okay. Okay, get
Yeah.
you. So now you guys are facing trial. Are you on bail? What's happening?
All of them got bail except me
Except you.
because of the
Oh,
case
that
I
house robbery.
absconded from.
Ah.
So they all left. I was left. I was left alone. But yeah, eventually the case was dropped. Those charges were dropped against all of us as well. But
The one for housebreaking.
housebreaking,
Okay.
yeah, that we were all arrested for, and then obviously I had to be kept because
Of the house robbery.
of the house robbery case, which eventually I ended up pleading guilty. And the lawyers, they promise you 4 years, plead guilty, 4 years, 6 years, because.
Yes.
And then I never forget when the magistrate handed down judgment, my mother and she was my fiance at that time. They were in court, and I just
Wait. So you had already proposed before you went to prison. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're agreeing to marry a bad guy
I
at that time.
don't have a choice.
What do you mean you didn't have
When he proposed, he's like, I'm telling you, I'm not asking you. That was the December, and then the next year, the September, we were all arrested.
Wow. Wait, this happens, the proposal happens in December.
Yeah, it happened. So in December 2005.
And in 2006, September,
Yes.
you
Was
guys get
arrested.
arrested and he's not coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's already your fiance and you are in court, you're getting sentenced. And what did the magistrate say?
Yeah, we were expecting 4 years, 6
Yeah.
years. And then when the magistrate brings judgment, it was like, I think 15 years or 2 years
years.
concurrent.
Mm-hmm.
So actually it was 15 years that I had to spend. And I'll never forget when they took me down the cells at Westgate Court. I'm looking through the window and I just see her crying.
I've seen her crying so many times.
Yes, at the
Yes.
visit.
So I have a picture. Yes.
Yeah, so eventually, you don't know what to expect. It's the first time I'm being sentenced. Walking, going there in the prison when they're taking your fingerprints, you're asking the guy when they're giving amnesty. You're not
Because every president that comes in
Yes.
comes in with amnesty.
Yeah, so
Yes.
and the guys were laughing at me. You see, they don't know I got a fiance outside, so I can't stay for a whole 15 years or
Hey.
half that time. But eventually, we are where we are today.
So at that time, in your mind, are you thinking, I'm gonna lose her? It's over. What's happening? What's going through your mind?
Yes, I think a big part of me thought, this is where she's gonna call it quits because I was abusive because of my drug habit.
Okay.
So it wasn't, I used to beat her up because of drugs, and I thought now this is an opportunity, and I'm sure many people outside also said, this is your opportunity, take it, run. And
Because
she
actually,
didn't.
that was your opportunity. You said he told you, he commanded, he told you that, hey, it was supposed to be an opportunity
Yeah.
to say, you know what, I'm done with this life. I'm done with this guy. He's been bad guy, abusive, and all of that. Why did you decide that you're not leaving him even then?
I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know, but there was, again, I'm saying there was something in Randolph that I saw and I believe like nobody else really saw. His heart was different, although there was that side of him. And it's something that I realized when people are on drugs. The drugs camouflage because that's not who the person is.
Definitely.
Behind all of that, there's a human being with the
Yes.
heart, with feelings. And I got to see that side of Randolph. So even when he was sentenced, my world fell apart. I mean, I was only 17, and
imagine.
it was somebody that really showed love and care. Besides the abuse and all that, he's gone. And I remember I went back to work and I said to my boss, I'm resigning. I can't continue working here because I need to go and see Randolph like whenever I can and so
Were you
forth.
also working on weekends?
Yes, I was. I used to work on Saturdays.
And that time it was in trial because trial visitors
was
during
on
the
a
week.
Monday.
Oh.
Yes, when I was ready to resign.
So wait, and now you wanna throw everything else away just for him?
Yeah, and I don't actually know why I wanted to resign because how was I actually going to get the money to go to prison? But okay.
Exactly. And
And-
your mom at that time disowned you.
And
Or
no, at
you-
this
you
time, me and
Okay.
my mom are fine.
Okay.
So before Randy got arrested, she called us and she said, you know what? I realized that I've lost. Just come back home. You and Randolph. And I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, we had all made peace. She had accepted him by then and everything. I'm sure at the back of her mind, she's like, I'm watching you very closely, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes.
And then, so I went to my boss and I told him that I'm resigning. I can't be working, like I need to be at prison and court whenever I can. And he was like, no, when do you need to go to prison? And I said, well, visit for Sunset for Westgate is on a Monday. He's like, every Monday you don't come to work.
How lucky were you?
Yeah, no, Shem, he was so supportive, and whatever I needed for Randy Shem, he was really there. So yeah, I'm
So as
thankful.
you say, God's hand has always been in each and
Yes.
every detail.
Definitely.
That's very
Definitely.
interesting.
And just to add on the question you asked earlier on, didn't I think sure I was going to lose? I did, especially when when you come in and you sentenced, and then you see guys that were married for many years, having
Yes.
old children, not they're there 2 years, and then the wife sends divorce papers,
I shall
and
see
and I'm not even married. She's
Yes.
still young. She got a whole life ahead of her, and I'm waiting now. Although she used to always tell me she'll always be there. She'll always be there, and I think you've seen it.
Yes. No, I've
Visit
seen it.
after visit, she's been
Yes.
faithful.
Yes, definitely. Wow, that's interesting, guys. So now you are in prison. Now you are sentenced. They've given you 15 years, and you're thinking, I'm gonna stay here for 15 years. I'm sure at that time you don't know that you can serve half or 1/3 of your sentence. So where do you go to from Westgate? Where do they send you to?
From Westgate, they sent us straight to Sunset in Johannesburg prison, and they took us into medium B,
Medium B, yes.
medium B, and then they take you into the receiving cells, and then after that, we were taken to the different sections that they allocate.
How old are you then?
I was 23 when I was arrested. Yeah, 23.
So you're no longer a juvenile?
No.
Yeah. So Helena Mambo. Yeah.
And then, you know, coming to prison, you're meeting these guys that are serial killers, serial rapists, and you know, just being around those some people, you see like big cases that were on TV with all these guys, and some guys now, I'll never forget, there was one guy, the guys treated him like a celebrity. Everybody wanted to be around this guy. I won't mention his name, but he was a serial rapist, serial killer.
Okay.
So when he came to the prison, everyone was to just be there's some guys that even done songs with him, because, you know, the musicians.
Wait, is it that one that came to Medium C?
Yes.
That one that chased the police with that thing for the locker when they didn't give him Dacha? Is that the guy from KZN?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I remember him, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Wow. So, and now you are in prison, you are there, and you are outside. Life is different. How's the life without Randolph in your life physically at that time?
It was hard. It was very difficult. So I would say that my life as an outmate started.
As an outmate.
As an outmate.
Yes.
Because everything revolved around what's happening in prison. You know, when the visits were, I had to make sure that nothing else comes in that way. You know, that time it's prison time. I knew Christmas Day, you know, those were days for sentenced prisoners, family day. So everything was about that. I had to make sure his weekly allowance was there, that I could buy him his baked beans and tin fish.
Imagine. How much would you say you would spend at that time?
At that time,
Per month, roughly.
Well, it was about his budget for the week. I would say was about 400 rand a week.
A week.
Yeah.
So times 4, it's 1.2.
1.2, and that's just for, you know, not even the basics, just to make sure that, okay, at least he can have, you know, not the prison food.
Yes.
And then, yeah, so it was difficult. Obviously, at that time, a lot of people were like, we told you, you know, now's your chance to leave him. You know, what are you going to wait for? You young, live your life. And nobody understood. So it was just like, okay, it's fine. I'll continue, you know. And at the time, obviously, I wasn't driving, so my mode of transport was going to North Street Town to go and catch a taxi to Sun City, and
that takes a lot.
It does. It does. Takes a lot. You know, and by the time you get in the prison after being searched so many times, waiting for the bus, you know, the queue at the shop, it was so draining. So by the time I would get home at like 1:00, and I would make sure I leave the house by like 6:30 to make sure I'm in the first 20 visiting. It was so draining. But yeah.
Now, Randolph, you have a very beautiful wife.
Thank you.
You are outside. There's guys that want you, guys that are asking you out. Are you not conflicted? What's happening there?
So,
let's talk.
So, yeah, it was hectic. And also the place where I worked, we dealt with the public and so forth. And so for the first, you got sentenced 2007. So for the first 2 years, I was like, no, I'm waiting for my guy, no matter what it takes. I don't think anybody knew what was happening in prison life like I did at that time with regards to laws and everything. So I was like, no, like I'm not getting involved in all of this. And then I also gave my life to the Lord in 2006, just after Randy went to prison. So I was in church and stuff like that. And then...
How did that happen? What happened?
So basically, Randy was encouraging me with the word. And at that time, I'm like, this one is just telling me because he's in prison, you know, like, no. And then I actually attended church and I was like, wow, okay. And I made a decision. It was in December. And I gave my life to the Lord, and I was in church very committed and all of that. And then 2009, I backslid, and yeah, I fell hard. I did end up seeing someone else,
Okay.
but he knew that you don't come anywhere close to my Randolph.
So that guy knew.
Yeah, he
you
knew.
told him.
I told him.
And do you tell Randolph that I met someone out there?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't want him to know by all means, but it was difficult, and so this guy was giving me a lot of attention. He pursued me as much as he could. He knew that I did have someone, and yeah, I ended up giving in, and yeah, I ended up drinking. I ended up doing a whole lot of nonsense, but with that came a whole lot of consequences, the heartbreak, the regret, and all of that. And my younger sister and Randy's younger brother were in a relationship at the time.
Wait. So so you guys, while you guys are dating,
Yes.
the younger ones are also dating.
They actually started dating. They were 13 at the time. It was that puppy
Before
love.
you guys?
Yes, before
Wow,
us.
that's
And they
interesting.
do have a child together and so forth. And that's how Randy actually found out. Because
Okay.
his brother and my sister. And at that time, my mother also disowned me again because she's like, you cannot do this to Randy, and I will not accept what you are doing. And I was put out the house again, and I was like, it's fine, I'm going. And I got my own place. And I think that was the biggest mistake I could have made was getting my own place. Because then I moved in with my friend again, and it was just a life of partying and stuff like that. But again, I will not leave out that my every weekend trip to Sun City still happened.
So you'd go there hungover, you'd
Yeah,
go there feeling
pretty
messed up
much.
and all.
Pretty much, yes. And I'm not proud of what I went through or what I done. It's still, something that. But I always say that I'm thankful that it happened when it did, and I learned a lot from that, because obviously me dating Randy when I was 17, and I'm not saying it's good that people should have many partners or they should date and whatever. I know what's out there, and what's out there was not for me.
I hear you.
And so yeah, Randy would be like, I don't know what you're doing with this person. He's just gonna hurt you. And I was like, no.
So eventually you confessed that you are
Yes,
seeing
and
someone.
I actually will not forget that date. It was the 5th of August when he called me and he's like, I heard you've got a boyfriend. And I was like, okay. The day he asks me, I'm going to tell him the truth. And I was like, yeah, well, it's true. And I still regret it. I still do.
I hear you.
But yeah, so in that backslidden position, it was just a mess. My life was a mess. I think for that time I stopped visiting Randy for a month because of my ways. And I think it was also because there was times I gave up. Randy didn't give up. But at this time, I was just a mess. And I think for him to protect himself, he was like, okay, let me just let it go. So I think it was for about a month where I didn't see him. I didn't speak to him. And then...
So this was the first time with him being in prison, having a reason not to see him.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it wasn't even me. He asked me
Not to
not to come.
I think because I was upset, I was hurt, I was broken.
Yes, I can
And
imagine.
I was angry because the
When you're in prison,
person,
you are even more sensitive. Yes.
so the person I expected to be there for me and the one I regarded has broke my heart, you see. So I told her I don't want to see her anymore. And there was a guy, your cellmate, that comforted me, through that time and encouraged
Emmy.
me. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he knew about it. He was always, as Jade said, I now surrendered my life to Christ. And I was reading the word, studying the word, and there's times because of that I didn't want to go to church.
I can imagine.
Broken. But when I would force myself to go to church, it's like the pastor would be preaching straight to me.
Yes.
And things were so bad because now I regarded her so high. She was always there. The person that will never disappoint. So even when people were telling me, I said, no,
It can't
be.
How
I
do
was
you
in
find
denial.
out? What happens? How do you find out?
My family because our families
your
were
younger
very,
brother or
very
everyone?
close. They knew about it and they started saying she's seen someone else. I said, no, never. You must be seeing things.
Wow.
And then the one day I'll never forget, I was sitting in the cell and I was listening to worship, and now suicidal thoughts are
Imagine.
crossing
Was she your
my
first
mind.
love?
The one I love like this, yes.
Okay.
Even out of all the girls I brought home, she was the first one. My father, who's passed away, he said, "This is the one." And I think it was just God speaking through him, saying, "This is the one." And as I said, that suicidal thoughts were crossing our mind. You know, we're in the school section, so we had access to computers. So I was listening to a worship song by Hillsong, and the title is "In Your Freedom I Will Live." But while I have these earphones on, my cellmates is there also with these earphones on, and I'm broken at
Who were
a
you
place
staying
of
with at that time?
what was his name?
Mike.
Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his name was Mike, and he's there listening to music. I'm broken, and you know, being depressed, oppressed is not willfully. These thoughts just start running in your mind. The more you try to divert, it comes back, and that's how it was. And you know, in prison, guys have killed themselves.
Yeah.
Guys have hung themselves. Guys have burnt themselves in prison, and the enemy is just speaking in my mind, saying this way, that way. Now I'm thinking, how can I do it? How can I? But worship music is playing in the headphones. All of a sudden, everything just shifts. I become joyful. I experience peace to the point that I start laughing there by myself. And my cellmate looks at me and says, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you going crazy?" He took off his headphones. But what he did not know, that I had an encounter with Jesus Christ right there.
What happened?
That was my first encounter. I was at a point of hopelessness, point of giving up, a point of ending my life. And I don't know, everything just while I'm listening
This
to
for love.
yeah, for love, yeah. But then a greater love was shown to me
I hear you.
in that instance, and joy filled my heart. That weight that was on me just was supernaturally
Lifted.
removed. But one thing I want to add on as well, before all this happened, when I was just sentenced in 2007, there was a guy that came to encourage me with the word. When I was just sentenced, his name was Castro, a guy from Congo, and he was preaching to me every day. And you know, sometimes you don't want to listen to the word of God for hours.
So wait, this is you newly sentenced.
Yes.
You grew up in a Christian family. You now were no longer in a Christian mode, state, whatever. You are disconnected.
Yeah.
Now you are sentenced. You are meeting Castro in prison.
But before I met Castro in trial, I knew, hey, I've heard the gospel outside. I know the truth. So I said in November 2006, I need to be born again. So I went to church, and it was a ministry, Grace Bible Church, came into prison that day. I went to church knowing I'm going to give my life to Christ, and which I did. Then fast forward 6 months, from November to February, I was sentenced. I met Castro, and he was preaching to me every day, sharing the word. And he said something to me powerful. He said, now that you're serving God, you need to ask God if this woman is your wife. Because you find yourself, you dating someone that's not even the one that God has assigned. Because we know marriage, relationship, God is a God of relationships. God initiated marriage. So he said, let us pray. We're going to ask God if this is your wife. So I said, okay, let's pray. Within that week, I had a dream. And in the dream, I dreamt I took a ring and I was putting a ring on her finger. So I was excited. I said, "No, God has answered." This is before all the chaos.
That's why I'm laughing.
So I said, "God has answered." And I ran that morning. As soon as they finished counters, when they opened the cell, I ran to the public phones, and I found her. And I said, "Hey, I had a dream. I dreamt that I was putting a ring on your finger." She was shocked. She said, "You know what? I had the same dream." So the same dream, we both had the same dream the same night that I was putting a ring on the finger. So that was God.
Wait, so now when that happens, is it before you backslided?
Yes, it was before.
This was before. All right.
Yeah, so we both excited because even outside there was even pastors telling her you know, he, that she's his wife and I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna leave her. I'm just using her for
Wait, there were pastors who were telling her that the guy she was dating at that time, she was his wife, and you were not.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, you know, sometimes we do things according to how we feel, and I think that when God spoke that through dreams, both of us having the same dream the same night, it's not a coincidence.
No, it can't be.
It was supernaturally God was telling us. But you see, the thing is with God, He will tell you the end, but He will not tell you the in between.
Yeah.
And sometimes we grow weary in the in betweens. I was hurt, I was broken, but through that brokenness, Ambrose, he always encouraged me with words, and he said, "Look at people in the Bible. Through these situations, they still remain faithful to God, and through that, I actually drew closer to God. She was no longer my first love, but now Christ had become my first love. So sometimes there's things we go through that God uses it for our benefit.
Definitely.
And we don't understand it. That's what the Bible says. All things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to His purpose. But through that, we don't want to see what good is coming out of this. So
your heart was circumcised then, to know what's what, who's who comes first in your life.
yes.
I hear you.
So yeah, afterwards as I said, I didn't want to see her. I didn't make, because now she couldn't get hold of me. So we didn't use cell phones in medium C.
Yes.
It's not like medium B.
Yes. Actually, there were cell phones. It's just that we decided not to have cell phones.
Yes, there was.
Yes.
Yeah, so the brothers that I met there, they were upright and God-fearing.
Yes.
And yeah, so because we were there, the only way I could communicate with her is if I call, and I chose not to. And then some guy had a modem, so you could get messages. So she passed a message to me, "Please tell Randy to call me urgently."
Wait, through what? Emails or
SMS.
SMS.
an SMS?
Yeah, because you know on the Vodom,
Yes, that modem.
yes, you can check your SMSs.
Oh,
and,
yeah. I remember those modems.
and she sent him a message saying, "Please tell Randy to call me urgently." And you know, being in prison, when they say urgently,
Yes,
you
you
don't
get
know
worried.
what's going on outside. And I ran to the phone and she said, please, can I come visit you? And I said, I didn't know how to say no to her. So I said, okay, come.
How can
And
you?
it-
How can you easily say no?
So from when she came in, that's when things started working out.
Now, tell me, Randy, you are in prison and you chose her because you know she's beautiful, right? Now, this is before you fall in love with her. We are mostly side-driven as men, you know, and would you feel that it was unfair and unrealistic for you to expect that she doesn't fall in love? You see, no one really charms her outside, you know. Would you say now, in retrospect, that you were probably unrealistic and unfair to expect her not to cheat? Yes.
The way she promised me and the things she said, I didn't expect it.
I hear
I
you.
think deep down in our hearts, we hope that she doesn't, but we know outside what's going on. We know
Yes.
people are people.
Yes.
It's easy to be tempted. It's easy to be misled. And some people even just do it just because,
Yes.
you see.
Even
and-
when you are outside.
And yeah.
Yes.
And I thought because it's 2 years, she remained faithful. She's always there on the visits, every opportunity she's there. I thought, no, she won't. So there was an expectation that she wouldn't, but you're always hoping that it doesn't happen to me or to anyone. You see, in prison, you saw guys cry. You see, I cried. I won't lie. That's how hurt I was.
Can imagine.
I cried. It was, I was broken.
Wow.
Because I gave everything. And she also gave her everything. But I think sometimes, we are lured somehow. We are deceived, misled. But the fact that we are still here today, God's word that He gave in that dream still remains.
Wow, that's interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, you are still tuned in to Prison Love Stories. My name is Chera Matseke, and we're coming to you from the David Mashabela studios. We having this beautiful couple. They're sharing their journey, their prison love story, you know, how it all happened. And thank you so much. You know, as I'm listening to you now, I want to know what kept you going when he is living in a different, isolated world, and you are outside with everything at your exposure. What kept you wanting this relationship to work?
So I think after the whole thing of the backsliding and everything, I think even then I knew what I wanted. I wanted a life with Randolph. And at that time, it was about making a decision and sticking to it, no matter what the cost. And that's exactly what it was. So my life basically was work, church, prison. That's it.
Wow. Work, church, prison.
That's
Work,
it.
church, prison.
Yes.
Randolph, you are in prison, right? You know, in prison, there's people from outside coming in, whether to render programs, educational, church. We have events, prison, a lot of events in prison, right? And now, you know, what church was that used to bring the group from El Dorado Park, Kalats? Do you remember?
Is it not the one from Florida?
I think
C3. I think it was C3 that was coming in.
Yes. Beautiful woman coming into prison, right? At different times, different activities, different programs. We have the Vets Law Project coming in. Don't you think, I think I was quick to choose. I think I can still change my mind. Were you not feeling like there's a chance that you were gonna date someone else, get into another relationship? Especially given what she has already done at that time.
Yes, I was just gonna say, I think until then I knew that she was the one, but I started doubting after the incident happened and I found out I was broken. You know, sometimes when you're broken, sometimes when you're hurt, you start wanting to do things, fix things yourself. And that's how I was looking, think maybe is this my wife? Is this my wife? Forgetting the word that God has given through the dream. And yeah, there was some times when I'm thinking maybe it's someone else, maybe because of the incident, what happened. But what I've learned in life is that when God speaks something, it doesn't change. That's what I've learned through our stories, that when God speaks, especially like supernaturally, you know that it's God. So there was a mess, it was chaos, there was a storm, it was difficult, but we're on the other side and God's word has been fulfilled. This is my wife.
Wow, guys, that's beautiful. So at what year were you told that you were gonna go out? At what year?
We were still not sure. You know, we were waiting, hoping for the sentence to be cut, amnesty, and then I knew I have to go see the parole board, and so forth. So, and then when it was time to come out, they were saying, but it was the same case that I was on the run for. They never cleared it of the system, and now the cops. I was now moved to Boksburg prison.
So they thought you had an outstanding case.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Meantime, they never cleared it of the one I was sentenced for.
Okay.
And they told me, hey, and it's almost time to come out. And they say, now another guy had a problem with this, and we took like a year or two to sort this out. And you know, when you're expecting to go out a certain time and now
it doesn't
you're hearing
happen.
these news,
you get so discouraged and demotivated, and I can imagine.
And then there was one night I had a dream, and in the dream an angel told me in the middle of July you're going to be released from prison.
In that dream?
In the dream.
What did you see? Why do you say it was an angel?
It was a messenger. He just came and he said, the middle, normal, not in bright clothes, but the face you could see is different. Just said in the middle of July you're going to be released. But I'm thinking, this cop told me it's going to take a year to sort out, and plus my name's not even on the list. The CMC never even put my name on the list to see the parole board. I don't even know when I'm going to see the parole board. And that morning, she came with my mom to visit, and I told him, hey, this is what I dreamt. And in the middle of July, God says, I'm coming out.
This is what year? 2024?
No,
2014.
2014.
2014, I mean.
Yes,
Early in the year.
yes.
Okay.
No, it wasn't earlier. It was about April,
Yeah.
around about April.
April. And this dream says in July you'll be out. Oh,
And
interesting.
then the next week, when they put the list on the walls with the names to see the parole board, my name was there.
Wow.
And I saw my name is there. And when I went to see the parole board, it was as it was in the dream. The same date, 14, what is 14?
14 July.
14 July
Wow.
was the date. I remember I called her to tell her I've got a date. She just started crying. I heard a sister in the background. Jade, what's
He's a
wrong?
cry, baby. Honestly, you've been crying all visits. I can't remember seeing you laughing or smiling.
Oh my gosh,
You've
visits were
been
hard.
crying all the time. Yes.
And I just heard a sister saying in the background, Jade, what's wrong? And she couldn't even say
Yeah, I
anything.
couldn't even
But she
talk.
was crying tears of joy because finally the wait has been over. And one thing
Yes.
we always encourage each other for throughout the years, this is the last year. This is the last year.
Oh my
we said that
gosh.
for
That
7
actually
years.
works. Because then, otherwise, if you're going to tell her that I'm coming out in 7 years,
Yo.
they probably would have, she would have given up probably. Yes.
True.
And it so happened she was at the verge now. She said this, she can't do this anymore. And then when she,
Prison is tiring.
that's when she
guys.
met our pastor's wife.
Yeah.
And she said she can't do it anymore. This was the 7th year.
It was the January of 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, she was on the verge of just giving up.
I can imagine. It's tiring. You know,
It is.
waiting for something, no matter how much you believe in, no matter how much you love it, it gets tiring. You know, because as you said that God will show you the end, but He doesn't tell or show you or give you the details, journey to the destination.
Yes.
You know, so it becomes quite tricky. You know,
And there's just something else I want to share. There was one time I was missing her and I ended up getting the phone in Boxburg, but God told me, stop using the phone because most of the time now we're speaking on the phone. I'm not reading the word. And God told me get rid of it, so I gave it away. This one day I was missing her so much, you see. And I spoke to God in my heart. I said, if I can just speak, and you know how it is in prison. The phones are open on request. You read us later if you're doing school and so forth, or weekends. And I think it was during the weekend. And I won't forget, I went out of the computer room but I was missing her so much. I said, God, if I can just speak with them. So I never speak this to any man, any person. I said, if I can just speak to her, I'll be so happy. I walked out of that computer room on my way to the cell. A prison official, he calls me and he says, you come here. And I went to him, I said, yes, Chief. He says, don't you want to use the phone? This is where I saw the power of God. You know, in prison to use that phone.
Yeah, no, it's
difficult.
a hassle. Yes.
But I never speak to
Well,
anyone
for
else.
me, you know, I was a bit privileged.
Yeah,
you know,
yes.
because of
But I mean, the ordinary guy,
yes.
it was difficult to have access to the public phone. They'll tell you wait for weekend or what a letter for school purposes or whatever. And this official, which I've never seen in life, where he calls an inmate and said, don't you want to use the phone? And I said, yes, Chief. And then he called the guy, please open the phone for him. And that's where I saw that this God that we're serving is real. Because I never even asked a question with my mouth. I asked it in my heart. I said, God, I'm missing her. If I can just speak to her. And God showed up.
That's powerful. And you know what? To our viewers there, they're probably thinking, why is this guy talking about God as if he has seen him? And, you know, briefly describe the intimate relationship with God and the importance of having a relationship with God in prison. How did it help you personally, you know, and the person that you are right now?
I think intimacy, if I'm now a youth pastor, and I've been preaching, teaching them, telling them about how important it is to be intimate with God. That's where that's where life is birthed from. There's nothing more important than having a relationship, an intimate relationship with God. And during prison, we've been fasting, me and Ambrose.
Yes.
We've been fasting a lot, sometimes 3 days. I was sharing with him, we are fasting a couple of weeks ago, and I was sharing with them a testimony, because as you said, you were favored in the prison. So you used to come with KFC sometimes to Ambrose.
Yeah.
and now Ambrose, because we are close, we are very close in prison. There was one day I was doing a 3-day fast, you see, not eating. And he came the second day and he said, I know you're fasting, but he had a piece of KFC wrapped in a serviette. And he said, I know you're fasting, but KFC in prison, it's like gold. It's gold in prison. So I said, hey, I had to decide, am I going to break fast or I'm going to go on for 3 days? And I told him, no, even if I keep it for the 3rd day, it's going to be off. So it's no use. You might as well keep it. And there was one time when I'm not sure if it was the same time, but on the 3rd day that I fasted, this one specific day, I heard a voice speak to me and said, no, my anointing is working in your life. And I think hearing the voice of God speak to you as an individual, you begin to realize that you're called for a greater purpose.
Yes.
Though you've messed up in life, though you made mistakes, but there's something greater that God sees in each and every one of us. And just like I think as Jade said earlier on, drug begins to shape your character and makes you become someone you are not.
Yes.
You start to portray darkness. You start to care about, you not caring about people is nothing. It becomes your nature. Yet that's not who God intended us to be. So when I drew closer to God, I began to discover purpose. And there's one dream I had when I was in prison. This was like, I think 2009. I dreamt I was on a hospital bed, laying on a hospital bed, and the doctors operate on me. But in the dream, I'm awake. And while the doctors are operating, they cut open my chest. And the doctor puts the hand into my chest and pulls out my heart. I'm still awake in the dream. And the blood is dripping, and the doctor's holding my heart. And the doctor looks at me and says, you see all this dirty blood, I'm about to take it all out. I woke up that morning knowing that God is speaking to me, saying that He's changing my character, He's changing my life, He's changing my heart. The Bible says the life of the flesh is in the blood. So He says He's changing my life. That's what I got from the dream. And from there, God started showing Himself countless times.
Wow, that's powerful.
Amen.
Yes. No, that's powerful. Now, he's got a date of release. What's happening? What's going through your mind?
Sure.
What are your preparations? What's happening then?
Yeah, a lot was happening. I was actually very sick that time when he called. So I was booked off from work. So I never used to take leave at work because I told him I need all the leave when Randy comes home. I don't know when it is, but I need all the leave. And so that day he phoned me, and the next day I went to work sick as I was, and I'm like, I'm back. I'm taking leave next month, and I'm going to be off for a long time.
Yes.
There was just a joy unspeakable. It was a journey. It had a lot of ups and downs, but it was painful.
So 7 years serving time, and how much time did you spend awaiting trial?
About 6 months. I was arrested September.
Because you pleaded guilty, then it was quicker.
Yeah.
So 7 years, 6 months now with this guy, not seeing him in.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it was. I don't know. It was just, it was like a dream come true. Like, Lord, yeah, you've done it for us. Finally, this is it. And then, yes, I went to work and I told him that I'm going to be needing time off and so forth. So the next thing was just me going to the parole board to fetch him. That's all that mattered.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So, I didn't really think of anything else after that. I didn't think, okay, yes, I know that we needed to get married, but I wasn't even thinking that far, so there wasn't like any preparations. But in that time, God had already spoken to me and told me that Randy's going to be in full-time ministry, and I'm a kingdom financier, so I'm going to be the one taking care, of it. And am I prepared for that? It's not going to be your normal marriage that you see. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'm ready for it, And yeah, I'll never forget going to the parole board to fetch him. I was so scared because I
So
was scared
where
of
was
officials. It was in Joburg town
Oh, okay.
Just in Frederick
in
Street.
Frederick Street.
Okay.
And when I checked the board, there was no one coming from Boksburg. And I'm like, Lord, this can't be.
So there was a board.
with all the
With-
guys from Sun City, from all the prisons that were going to be released from there.
Yes.
And I remember that day, everybody had left and it was just me. And I'm like, wow, they close at 3:00. And yeah. And then one of his friends, Anele, was meeting me there at the time because he wanted to, welcome him. And my phone went flat. It was about to go flat and so forth. And the next
You
thing,
know Anele, Bala Bala.
I think so.
Mm.
Yeah, I wanted to describe Anele differently,
Oh,
but I think that's
okay.
the one that I'm thinking about. Yeah.
And then the next thing, Randy walked in and I was like, yeah, wow. It was such an exciting moment. And then I remember he took my phone and I'm like, no, are you allowed to have a phone?
Now you're not sure if he's really free.
Yes, I was still so
Yes.
traumatized about everything,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that. And then he always said his first meal he wants is McDonald's. So we went to McDonald's at Gandhi Square.
Yes, I see that one.
Yeah, and
Hey.
that was just the happiest
best- the
day.
best moment
It
ever.
really was, and just looking back, it was like, wow, it was a journey, but
was.
it's done,
It's done. So when did you guys get married?
So what happened is I was attending where I still am at Upper Room. Randy called Pastor David and they didn't know each other, but because I had always spoken about Randy, Pastor David came the day he was released and he came to meet Randy. And I think the next day Randy phoned him and he said that, we need to get married. So what happened is Randy came to stay with us by my mom's place. So I had moved into the room with my mom and he had my room. And so yeah, we didn't have any money or anything at the time. We just said, the end, I think it was 10 days later. But we see
12
it was
days.
like the following
So you
Saturday.
didn't want to waste time.
Yes.
Because of you guys are Christians, they don't want to fall
Yes,
into temptation.
exactly that. And then we just set up the place in my mom's garage. I remember that day, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Randy got very sick. We went to go and visit Amros in Sun City. And Randy was sick the whole way there. We had to stop at Southgate because he was sick. When we got home, there was no electricity and we were due to get married at 6:00 that evening. I had to go and borrow a dress from one of my friends. It was just, I phoned my pastor's wife and I'm like, I don't think this wedding can continue. She's like, well, I'm like, there's no electricity here. She's like, we can do it by candles. That's even more romantic.
I can imagine.
And yeah, Randy can speak for himself how supernaturally he was healed just for the time of the ceremony.
Wow. So what happened that day?
Yeah, as she said, I was throwing up at a text line after we visited Ambrose. I was not well. I don't even know
From nowhere.
what was wrong. I don't think it was nerves because I wanted to get it over and done with. But all the time I was sick. But during the ceremony, I was well. The moment all the guests left, the sickness came again. And one thing I can remember is that when the pastor was marrying us, the presence of God was there. It wasn't a fancy wedding. It was in our mom's garage where a car parks. We just set up. And I felt that day that heaven was agreeing with what we were doing. Yeah, it was a fulfillment of the dream that God spoke in 2007. Now 2014. It's fulfillment. So heaven was in agreement with it. And I sensed the presence. I remember while the pastor was marrying us, I lifted up my hands to God because I felt the same encounter I had in that cell when I was at a point of giving up. It filled that place again.
Wow. That's interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, we still listening to very beautiful story. It didn't start in prison, but prison really tested their relationship. And now you guys are happily married for over 10 years now.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Now, would you say that it's possible for someone to find love in prison, even though you met Randolph before? Would you say that in your experience?
Yes, I would. Along the way, I met a lot of outmates. And yeah, it really is, not everyone in prison doesn't change. And that's the perception that a lot of people have, is that once you're in prison, that's where you belong. And no, there's so much more to it. There is so much more. And I do believe there's been a lot of successful relationships where people have met in prison. There's been a lot that are not successful, but overall, there is hope.
Any tips to ladies and gents who are visiting in prison? What would you say they should look for, maybe as red flags, as green flags, maybe sometimes it's just basic things to say, avoid maybe smuggling this, that, for your partner to come back quicker. Any advice?
No, definitely. It would be just obey the law, obey the rules. Don't take anything in that's not allowed to be in. There was a lot of instances. There was a lot of crazy things I saw that people would try and take into prison. One day, some woman was taking her panty in, and she was they embarrassed her.
She wanted to smuggle her panty in.
Panty. And they really made an
did that happen?
example. We were actually going by the first gate, and they pulled out this panty, and they were making such a big joke. She was so embarrassed, but she was turned back home.
So it's the guys that tell him this is what I want.
Yeah, do the right thing. The red flags is that there was a certain amount of visits that the person has. So if those visits are used up and you are not using them, you need to check why. Obviously give family space, but yeah, that's not only one visit a month. That's one thing for sure. Yeah, but always try and see the best in the person, and forgiveness goes a long way, love, and a lot of patience. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Randolph, any tips, encouragement, people who are visiting each other in prison? What would you say, for people to have a beautiful love story after prison or while they are still visiting each other?
I would say remain faithful, transparent, open with the person. I think that's what's needed, because there is guys also that are playing games. They're looking for women just to support them for that, which I know of. And then they make it bad for other guys because, they hear stories and saying, this one done this, this one done that. And I'm just thinking of one story, but I'll leave it for now. Okay, there was a guy that was always every Thursday, and he's coming with young girls.
Yeah.
Coming in, he was portraying to be a person, and young girls are coming in and getting
to visit him. Yeah.
And you may know that guy, but I won't mention. But anyway, and he was just using them for. But there is sincere guys, some guys that maybe have not even received. They don't know what the visit room looks like. Their families have written them off. So there is sincere guys, but above all, as I said, I talk through my experience, hear from God if that is the person that He has assigned or designed for you. Just like us, I think once you know that, and once God has spoken, the storms, let the storms come.
Yeah.
Although it's not easy, but yeah.
Yes. So now, in closing, guys, Randy has been out for 10 years, right? I'm sure a lot has happened, and you've mentioned that you're a youth pastor. You guys are fully committed in church, right? What do you do? What are the things that you're doing in church, business, work? What's happening in your lives right now?
Okay, as we said, with the youth, we're running a youth ministry. So our heart is for the youth. We've registered also a recovery home. In 2020, God gave me a vision.
Recovery home, meaning this is substance abuse recovery home.
Yes, we reach.
Where is it?
We don't have a premises as yet. We still trust in God, but we are helping guys, placing them in rehabs that are available, restoring, discipling guys that have went through that part, reaching out to those that have been rejected by family and friends, and telling them, no, God is the restorer of relationships. And we also got our own brand it's called Saint Wear. It's a Christian clothing brand.
Saint Wear.
Saint Wear.
So it's a clothing brand.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's something God also gave me while I was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
That I'll be doing this clothing brand. And it basically means saint is a Greek word, which is agios, which means to be set apart, be different. You see, and
So if I wear Saint Wear, I'm declaring I'm set apart, I'm different.
yes.
Oh, wow, that's
and,
powerful.
and the slogan of Saint Wear is don't just wear it, live it. So it's not about wearing the t-shirt or the sweater or the hoodie, but it's about a lifestyle that God has called us to live, being set apart, being different, be the light of the world which God has called us to be.
Wow. I would love to I'll buy some few items, so that I wear it on my podcast,
Awesome, yeah.
So it will be great. So it's the recovery center, it's the brand, the Saint Wear, and what else are you guys doing? What do you? I have seen you guys do camps as well.
Yes, so we take our youth to camp once a year. So we're in the area of Bella Vista. A lot happens in that area, but our heart goes out to the youth there. So every November we take the youth. We also, people sponsor those who can't go, and they just have an amazing weekend. Our children go through a lot at home these days. They're carrying a lot of stress, and it's just a weekend for them to just be kids and just enjoy. And then we also run the UCC mission side at our church. We get sponsors. We feed about 200 kids on a Tuesday. Not only kids, but mostly children. We also have parcels for about 150 families a week. We put children in school, so that's also something that Randolph is also very busy in. So we just thank God for where He's taking us, what He's doing in our lives, and
That's beautiful. So thank you so much, guys. Really, I'm so pleased. I feel blessed to have you guys here. I know you guys have a long way, ahead of you. You have a lot of lives to touch. You have a lot to achieve together. I would say remain together. Challenge is will forever and always be there. I know right now there are people who are watching this. They either want to call you for their marriage seminars, relationship, different things, whether it's coaching or maybe they want to donate to your cause, to help you guys deal with addiction, in your area. How do people get hold of you?
You can get hold of us on my cell phone number,
Okay, yes.
which is 078 07 00179.
You can repeat that.
078 07 00179.
Social media platforms.
Yes, we have it. Image of Christ is the organization. Image of Christ Recovery Center. They can get us on that as well on Facebook.
It's a Facebook page.
Instagram as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And also if it's for maybe for business, we also have Saint Wear SA. That's on all platforms as well.
On all platforms. Thank you so much.
Thank
Guys,
you very much.
I really appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, Prison Love Stories, we out. Thank you.
King David Studio Podcast.